evening and welcome back to another video. We start today with some more positive predictions about the Bitcoin market. Bitcoin will hit $1 million, says IBM's VP of Blockchain, Jesse Lund. That was my app which just crashed, apologies for that. The Vice President of Blockchain and Digital Currencies for IBM, Jesse Lund, says that he expects Bitcoin price to eventually hit $1 million. Lund made his prediction during an interview with Comparison, a news platform Finder.com, published on YouTube on February 20th. I'd like to check that out. Toward the end of the interview, Lund was asked what he expects the price of Bitcoin to be in this New Year's Eve. He answered that he thinks it's going to be higher than the current price, clarifying, "I'll go with $5,000. He continued his prediction by adding, "I see Bitcoin at $1 million someday." He predicts $5,000. Wow, is very, very, very super conservative. If it's at around $4,000 now, it's going to do 1,000 over 10 months. Interesting. Anyway, Lund explained that he likes that number given the fact if Bitcoin is at $1 million, then Satoshi is on value parity with the US penny. He noted that such a value, the whole network would have over 20 trillion of liquidity. Then he suggested that the liquidity could change corporate payments and high value payments in general, concluding, "I may be seeing $5,000 at the end of the year, but I see a way higher upward trajectory." During the interview, Lund also talked about IBM's collaboration with Stellar and the use of the network's native asset in IBM's cross-border payment network, Blockchain Worldwide. As previously reported, IBM uses XLM in both BWW, both as an intermediate currency and to pay transaction fees. Lund also revealed that the firm is considering working with various other digital assets, explained that they believe there should be an ecosystem of a variety of digital assets that provide settlement instruments that enable these cross-border payments, and the participants in the network should be able to choose and negotiate their choices in real time. Lund went on to state, if it could be Ripple, it could be XRP even, it could be Bitcoin, but it would also probably include other instruments like stablecoins and eventually soon, hopefully, central bank issued digital currencies. So let's just have a look at what Lund is saying. And this is a wider point I wanted to make in the core of this video. If one day Bitcoin hits $1 million, you have to ask yourself, and again, please do your research into this. This is not financial advice, but in my opinion, if people are starting to talk about these higher figures already for Bitcoin, for a currency which is just over 10 years old, so a child in years, if it's going to hit $1 million, and the price of now is sitting at $3,900 something, let's just say $4,000, how many people are going to be able to afford Bitcoin when it goes back up to $20,000, $30,000? You'll already have people struggling to buy even a quarter of a Bitcoin, because people aren't buying a quarter of a Bitcoin now. So a quarter obviously will be 5,000, so 5 times 4, $20,000, or even less, depending on if it hits like $30,000. If we're going to get to a point where it's going to hit $1 million and it's going to be one Satoshi will be one US penny, and I'll come back to that point in a bit, then you're going to be somebody who can then, it'll match up with $1 million will be one Bitcoin, and the smallest Satoshi will be one penny. So even if you can afford to buy $1,000, you have to look at how many Satoshis that's going to be, and $1,000, if the price is $1 million, will get you hardly any Bitcoin. So the time to buy is now. We hit a low of $3,100 in I think think December time, or it might have been just January time, and we've gone up $800 from there. How much do you think we're going to get to by the end of the year? And the prediction of $5,000 is hilarious, because if the price has gone up $800 in let's just say two months, this article reads that it's gonna go up $1,000 in 10 months, or take 10 months to go up $1,000. Whether it does hit 5,000, let's just say for argument's sake it does, and this article is correct and we're going to hit $1 million, then having a $5,000 investment which turns into $1 million, let's just say that's 20 years from now, it's going to be a pretty good retirement fund for a lot of people. And this is why I keep saying, try and buy, if it's worried about budget and don't want to throw too much money into it, then buy a little, but buy it often. So like I've kept saying, even if you're buying 0.1 or 0.05 of a Bitcoin every month, then you're looking at around, let's say it's $4,000. So looking at $200 for 0.05, obviously $400 for a 0.1 every month. So if you could look to put aside $200, and obviously again, like I've mentioned in previous videos, the price will slowly increase, so the 200 will be worth less. So if you want to keep at that 0.5, so 0.05, then you obviously need to slightly start increase at $200. But the idea is, if you can put aside just $200 every month, and again, this is not financial advice, and I always keep harping on about Bitcoin, but we have got the biggest potential with Bitcoin, and of course we've got massive potential with Ethereum and XRP and EOS and Litecoin, but the one everyone keeps referring to more so obviously than XRP and Ethereum is Bitcoin. It's number one. It's there at the beginning. Will it be there at the end? Who knows? Will there ever be an end? Who knows? But it's the price, it's the product that we know there's only going to be 21 million coins. It's solidly written into the hard code. We've lost many more coins, so circulating supply is already less. A lot of institutions and private investors already hold a lot of it, and we know a lot of the names, so there isn't that much floating around. And what there will be, you'll just get simple economics of supply and demand. The demand will be high, and we already know the supply is low. But what we haven't got the realization is, we don't have the realization that demand is high at the moment, and we don't have the realization that supply is low. But once we get high demand and people start realizing there isn't actually that much Bitcoin to go around, and there's only so much available on the market, then the price will start rocketing, and it will rocket, because people are not going to sell something which is going up. You would have to be ludicrous to say this is potentially could hit $1 million and I'm going to sell it at $50,000. You would almost be foolish to do that. So people will keep holding, even if they've got a 0.1, a 0.2, or a 0.01. And if you look at a 0.01, even if you invested that, I think a 0.01 is something like $30. Even if that was worth $10,000 on $1 million, then that you got to $1 million, you got to $10,000 by investing $30 or $40. So people who are holding 1 or 2 or 10 Bitcoin potentially could be multi-millionaires. They're not going to sell, and there's going to be a struggle when people want to buy, and we just know what's going to happen. The price will just keep going up. There'll be a lot of we expect at that point a lot of exchanges open who they'll be holding a lot. We'll have potentially a lot of ETFs, not just in the US, you'll have it in other countries. There's talk of possibly Japan doing it, and Switzerland and other countries trying to get there first. So you'll have all this sort of hype specifically around Bitcoin. And obviously we expect the other currencies to go up in price. I'm not just saying just hold Bitcoin, but a lot of portfolios are strong on Bitcoin. The price will go up, don't get left behind. And it's the same with Ethereum, it's almost the same with EOS. We can predict prices of EOS, what they could be in the future. We can predict prices of what Ethereum is going to be in the future. But there's going to be, I think, it's going to be a massive gap to what Ethereum prices could get to, and the price of what Bitcoin will aim to get to. So obviously, our friend John McAfee has given a $1 million prediction by the end of 2020. Um, it's difficult to agree to that. I would love to say yes and hype everybody up, but you have to be realistic. We're sitting at $4,000 now. If it by the end of the year it gets to, let's just say it gets to $80,000, $90,000, you have to hope that 2020 is a year that Bitcoin gains $900,000 in 1 year, and that's a big ask to get to $1 million by 2020 from it reaching, let's say, anything between $50 to $100,000 this year, which is massive. But when you're getting from 5,000 to 100,000, that's one thing. That's getting $95,000 or $96,000. But if you're going from $100,000 to $1 million, which is $900,000, you have to have so much adoption in the market. You have to have so much demand in the market that everybody wants Bitcoin now, now, now. The amount of people entering the market needs to just be on a curvature which is just almost straight line, because there's that many people to get into the market. This $1 million is something which we would potentially get in 10, 20, 30 years time, if you're thinking about it honestly, because you have to get to a point where mining is so much more difficult, and it's halved and halved and halved and halved but a number of times in 20 or 30 years, to the point where it takes so much mining to get a Bitcoin, where we're only mining 0.01 every so often, that the scarcity increases. I think the last Bitcoin is going to be mined something like 2130. So that's what I'm saying. It's a long, 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 long term ahead of us that Bitcoin will be finished in terms of the full mine. We're in 2019. If you look at 2130, I think roughly, you're talking about 120 years you're looking at of more mining to go. And that price, God only knows what the price will be in 120 years. Obviously, a lot of us listening won't be around, but it could hit $1 million then. It might be 10 million, it might be 100 million there. We just don't know regarding that. What we can do is predict on pricing going up, and substantially going up more than it is now. Substantially going up more than it was when it all-time high was $20,000. It's going to be more. So look at, I keep saying this and I'll keep reiterating it on a lot of these videos. Look at where you spend your money. If you want to save, or you want to think of long-term investments and you want to make a substantial amount of money, which I believe, in my opinion, it's entirely possible, then look at cryptocurrency. We're not going to get another product like this for a long, 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 long time, where there's a product available on the market. It's valued at this currently. It was at $20,000. We expect it to go higher because there's that much more investment or interest in the market, especially from the larger institutions. You don't want to be one of those people where you get there and say, Bitcoin or cryptocurrency is only for the rich, because I can't afford it. And when you had the opportunity of cryptocurrency or Bitcoin, or maybe the top 5 or top 10 in 2016, 2017, 2018, and even now in 2019, but didn't take on the opportunity because thought it was just a hype. If big companies are getting into it, that should tell you enough that they're willing to risk their capital, their next online. At the end of the day, if these things don't work for the person or the lady who's running backed, then they will get fired. There's a big project which has gone. They've invested hundreds of millions of dollars into this. They've raised even more money trying to get it from investors. There's a good chance people's next will be in line. They're taking a calculated risk on starting a product like backed, a fund like backed, to get more money for themselves. And ultimately, they're trying to push the price up so they make money. So individual investors get pushed out of the market, and the only way they can get in is through funds like the ones they offer. So take the control now before you're outfoxed and beaten out of the market, because otherwise there'll be nothing left. So look at it, think about it, invest your money wisely. I really just want to talk about this article in particular because this is kind of more valuable. I want to provide this information more than anything else. then so please look at your products carefully, look at your cryptocurrencies, invest wisely, and we'll quickly look at the crypto market before we leave today. So yeah, sitting still hovering around 3,900, so fairly stable. I think this morning it was at $4,050. So we broke through 4,000, but we can't seem to hold 4,000, which is okay. As long as we stay in the sort of the 3/8s and the 3/9s, that's good. Volumes come down a little bit, but it's still well over 20 billion. Market down a couple of billion, but still quite healthy at 133. So like I said, if we can stay about above these prices, and slowly as we go into March, end of March, we can get into that sort of $4,500-$5,000 mark by end of March, then we're looking good for the rest of the year. We just need to get past that 4,200, like I mentioned again, and then we can go on a hopefully a prolonged bull run for the next 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 months of the year and into 2020, and that's what we'll see, a prolonged bull run, as opposed to a massive hype in 1 month. We want a continuation of prices going up throughout the year, and we don't want a 2-week period of going from something like 4,000 or 5,000 and going up to $20,000 in 2 weeks. Just prolonged bull run would be better than a shock to the system and a mass sell-off. So prices will go up, people will enter the market, people will sell off, but people will enter the market and keep entering and slowly pushing that price over the $20,000 mark. We'll get more investors coming in at 25, 30, 40, 50, 60, and that's where we expect to go. Like I said, I keep reiterating, I predicted, and I still stand by this, $90,000 to $150,000 by the end of the year. If we can get to about $20,000 or $30,000 by August time, then we look good for December. But we need a prolonged bull run to get to this 90,000, and that's the caveat of having a prolonged bull run. We've had a 10-year bull run from when we had a market crash with the traditional markets in 2008 to 2007, 2008. For 10 years, the market, and a lot of them broke grounds where FTSE was over 7,000, the Dow Jones was over this amount, and the New York Stock Exchange was over this amount. So they all broke massive records. The same thing Bitcoin will do this year, and we expected this year more than last year because we've got actual product timelines now as opposed to just looking at products. So anyway, I'll leave it there. Very positive news. I like to stay positive coming into the weekend. Well, going into Friday. So I'll leave it there. Thank you very much for listening. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Thank you. Goodbye.